Too smooth that mud talking to have your ass in a wreck. You sign to get checked. Pussy better do what he says. We shutting down shows. Ain't gotta put no price on your head. Man, I'm coming for your tongue for all that shit that you said.
Gonna make the profiles boom, 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 boom. What it is, I'm gonna tell you what it is, and of course I'm gonna tell you what it ain't. What it ain't is bullshit. What it is real talk by a real one in real life doing real things. I really will. Oh yes, I really. I said I really will. Right? Trip out. Anyways, I'm catting out. As you can tell by that thumbnail right there, I'm gonna profile a legend in the Chicano rap game, a legend in life, and a very good person, man. Mr. David Rocha, aka Sir Dyno. Pinta bound. See the bottles in my town, and you know I'm gonna put it down. I got the CR and the cranca, right? Here's his story. You know, a lightweight profile on one, Mr. Sir Dyno. One of the vatos that I looked to for motivation when I was wiggling out there and I was ready to put it down, Sasuke, I threw on some pinta bound and I knew I was pinta bound. That's definitely what was going to happen. But he was more than that. He was more about his music, his art. You know, the character of a man and what he is today, man, is much different from what he was. You know, he's a reformed man, a changed man, a real man. And I'm not going to say anything derogatory about this vato, but I'm going to tell his storia. So trip out on this, man. We're going to get into a whole lot of gang stories. No pun intended. Real talk. Mr. David Rocha, Sir Dyno. Coming from and hailing from the small town of Tracy, California, from the Central Valle. And of course, anybody that knows about Tracy, California, you think Tracy, you hear, Tracy, you say prison, DVI, gladiator school, the wars that were fought behind those fucking fences. Sasuke, the vatos that were hit and stuck and stabbed all the way from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And now it's gone, right? That's the history of Tracy. But Charlie, man, there's a city of Tracy. There's a town. And they wiggle in the town. A very gang-related, vicious town. You know, Tracy has always been simultaneously side by side with Stockton. They're very close. So anything that's happening in Stockton kind of spills over to Tracy and vice versa. The gang relations are real. Motherfuckers been handling their business in a northern and a southern fashion around the city of Tracy for a very long time. And there's some very old established barrios. Now, Sir Dyno sprang from the trenches of Tracy, California. And so, of course, he was with the Norteño movement. He was just a northerner, what you considered a Norteño in good standing. Someone, man, who believed in the people, who believed in the northern raza, who believed in the cause, but at the same time was just doing his thing. Of course, he was a small, petty dope dealer at the time, allegedly, and started to get into rap music. You know, in the early 90s, late 80s, Sir Dyno wanted to be the voice of the people as far as the Chicano movement, the Brown movement. And he came out with several CDs. You know, they were little local, low-budget CDs. Him, and he hooked up with a vato named DJ MT out of Tracy, decided that for no other reason they should push these out the trunk of their car, make it happen. And it was very much local. You know, everyone that was in that surrounding areas, the San Joaquin Valley, was starting to hear about a young rapper coming up in the game in his early 20s named Sir Dyno David Rocha out of Tracy. Now, the way we looked at it, I was very young. As I got older, I knew him as Dyno, but I also knew him as a homeboy from Tracy. And that was that, right? I didn't know him personally like that, but I felt like I did. You know, he was a hero of mine. Sasuke, he was pushing the movement for the gente and for the people. And for that, man, I was giving him a lot of props. And a lot of people did in Northern California. He's our equivalent in Northern California to Kid Frost down south. You know, the godfather, basically, of Chicano rap. You know, of course, you got Toker from Brownside down there. A lot of people respect him as such. That's Southern rap. Of course, in the Northern rap, man, we're going to give Woody that shine. But as far as Chicano rap, our godfather up north is going to be David Rocha, Sir Dyno. Ha, 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 ha. Indubitably. It's just the way it's going to be. So, coming out of Tracy, California, what happens is he started to gravitate more towards the Bay Area. You got to understand, Tracy is located right in between the Central Valle and the Bay Area. So you could wiggle, you could go this way, Sasuke, or you can go that way. However you want to do it, man, do like Bo, strike the pose and do your thing, because Bo knows. So he was out there in Oakland, Hayward, Dakota. And if you look at a lot of his old videos, you'll see Speedy from Dakota, as well as his brother in Bugsy in a lot of the videos, the old Darkroom Familia videos, but we're going to get to all that. So he hooked up with two brothers out of Hayward, man, Crooked and Duke. And these guys had a vision. You know, not only did they want to get into the rap music scene, but they also wanted to do bigger things, make movies, write books, things of that nature. They were entrepreneurs and very well known in that area and respected. So he hooked up with them, and they formulated this plot, and they formulated this plan, and they had a studio. And this is coming straight from Dyno's mouth. He's told me that had one light, man, and they considered that the dark room. So they felt that for no other reason, they should call their record label, Darkroom Familia. They were considered a familia. This was no play off the NF, the Nuestra Familia. This was just a familia formed together from vatos from the Valle as well as the Bay Area. Now, you had several individuals from Darkroom family. So, in fact, they broke the Guinness Book of World Records with an album called Minority Militia, where they have fucking 1 million vatos on there. So, I can't call it like an alcoholic. It was like cucarachas on an album. But I remember that. Now, Trip, so Darkroom Familia started to be well known in the Central Valley and the Bay. You know, we were pumping their shit, man. Everyone was bumping them, and I knew them quite extensively. I knew a lot of vatos from Darkroom Familia because coming from the city of Merced, California, we had a local group called Lowdown, which was Never, Mickey D, Hurricane J, Young Gangster, Drew, and several other individuals that comprised this group, Lowdown. Of course, my boy Funky Chicken, Pollo Loco, the realest and the illest. And they quickly joined Darkroom Familia, started to do a lot of collaborations, always had Lowtown Records, always had their own thing going on, but we're affiliated and we're on a lot of the compilations and CDs with Darkroom Familia, to which Sir Dyno, DJ MT, and of course these brothers, Crooked and Duke, were the masterminds behind. Now, Dyno started to be known in certain circles as a producer, as a rapper, but also as a D-boy, as a dope dealer, as a gang member. And he kept a lot of that separated. You know, in his early CDs, man, from the Barrio with Love and just a whole bunch of different CDs, it was more about brown power and brown pride and giving up for the raza more so than the norte. But what happened and the catalyst to his career was in 1997, April 30th, 1997, someone paroles out the Bay, out of Pelican Bay. And it's a vato known as Bobby Güerito Grande Modesto, right? Now, this individual at this time was one of the highest ranking NF members on the calles. You know, he was sent out with directives to formulate a plot and a plan and to bring all the gente together. Now, at this time in the 90s, there was a lot of red on red going on. A lot of people were getting smacked on the streets. We had lost our way. You know, our direction as norteños was all over the place. Vatos were tripping on each other over jainas, over the bag, over whoop-diddy-whoop, right? Whatever, so and so. My nose itches. I must be getting some money. It itches like motherfucker spends on la tira. Anyways, this is what it was, right? And this is how it was. And so he got out with directives from the Bay. Okay, when you get out with directives from the Bay, they're to be adhered to and admonished. And Southgate, who gives a fuck? Whatever they say goes, that's what's going to go, right? And so he gets out, and I remember, man, he called a junta in Modesto on the west side, man, right there by the Barrio Four Corners, where he put this dictation out and this mandate out and decided that if for no other reason, red on red shall cease, meaning the direction of the Norteño movement was supposed to be pointed and directed at the Sureño movement and to be aggressive towards them instead of each other. Now, this did two things. This brought all the gente together and everyone felt the canalismo, and it ceased a lot of the red on red that was going on, a lot of audio turf warfare that was happening in the Valle and the Bay Area. It ceased that. And what it also did, man, is it gave people a new direction and a new fucking agenda. Okay, it was a very dangerous and treacherous agenda, and a lot of soldados are doing vida behind it. But this is just what it was. When the big homies say jump, you don't say how high. You jump, puto, or you catch a pico de gallo. That's just what it was. And so what they did was they utilized Dyno. Bobby Grattan did. He utilized Dyno and what he was doing out there. Because you got to understand, Dyno at this time had a big following behind him. You know, he had a big following. He was deep in the rap game. He was making these little low-budget movies. He was doing his thing, and people knew him. He was a household name as far as up in Northern California. There was even vatos, yes, from down south that bumped a little bit of Darkroom Familia. And, of course, he had the West Coast on lock pretty much. Man, Albuquerque, New Mexico, they were pumping him. Texas, they were pumping Sir Dyno. He was in local stores, man, Musicland, Sam Goody, The Warehouse. So he was really making money. He was really out there, man, and he deserved it. His art form, what he did, you know, there's always going to be people that say he couldn't rap, where's shit. But I loved what he said, man. He was bringing realism and he was bringing real life and breathing a breath of fresh air into our people, which was the Chicano people at that time. Latinos, Mexicanos, you know what I mean? You know how it is. Anyways, you feel good when one of your own's winning. At least I do. I'm not a hater. So having the Southwestern states sewed up, of course, you know, you got the vatos from down south like Kid Frost, Lighter Shade of Brown. They've been doing that. You know, of course, Toker from Brownside, they've been doing that. And they're to be respected, you know. But at the same time, he was doing it for the vatos up north. And people recognized that. And the NF that was up in Pelican Bay, they also recognized it. So a couple of them got together and they felt that if for no other reason, Bobby Grattan, upon his release, should get in contact with Dyno and have him produce an album. See, these were smart. These vatos were way ahead of their time. So they said, produce this album right here, the GUN. You see it? GUN, Pinta Bound. Produce this album, and this is basically going to be a mandate, a dictation to all young norteños out there to strive together, to come together for one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to eradicate the opposition. Now, is it a good thing? Do I promote it? Chale, of course not. But at the same time, it was something that was very big in the calles. It was something that everyone assumed Sir Dyno was behind because he was on most of the tracks. Now, of course, my favorite track, you guys already know, is right there. Big, bold writing. Pinta band, see them bottles in my town, and you know I'm gonna put it down. That was one of my favorite songs from the album. Continued to be one of my favorite songs in life. Because I myself was pinta band, you know, on several occasions. So it was like listening to real life. And it was what was going on at the time. You know, vatos were getting downed out there, man. And vatos were definitely pinta bound. So everyone started to look at Darkroom Familia as a norteño record label at this time. But quietly as it's kept, this album wasn't produced under Darkroom Family Records. It was produced under North Star Records, something that they had improvised real quick and something that Juanito Grattan had formed in fashion and that they were promoting. Of course, in the beginning, in the intro, you hear Juanito Grattan giving the mandate, giving the dictation to all the young norteños to strive and come together to be norteños to eternity and things of that nature. Anyone that listens to it knows that it's pretty close to a lot of the dictations that were happening within the norteño movement. So it ran hand in hand. People that have been around knew, people that didn't, they were in awe. It was all inspiring. Of course, what this album did and what Sir Dyno basically was part of was, man, the agenda got real out there in the guys. People started to get smacked. And I know myself as knowing Mr. David Rocha, Pastor David Rocha now, that's not the influence that he really wanted. But at the time, he was a young norteño doing his thing. And of course, man, he got in the mix. Now, you got to understand, when this happened, there's always going to be this and that. People, he said, she said. Dyno was not aware that this vato was actually a big homie like that. And there's going to be like, come on, man, he had to be a baboso not to be. He could have and he could have not. I'm going to stick with what he says, that he wasn't aware of what the homeboy was doing. He was just trying to look out for a vato that was in, you know, basically a bigger homie than him. But he didn't know that this vato had any NF affiliations at the time. So what happens is in 1998, Sir Dyno was cruising, man, and he gets pulled over. You know, he gets pulled over by the placas and he has 3 ounces of cranca, right? Supposedly, allegedly in his car. And this is when his career is going great. I mean, Darkroom Familia is out there. Everyone's known. They're a household name up north. People are starting to recognize him down south. The wiggle was real, man. He's starting to make a little bit of feria. And he's trying to distance himself from this GUN CD that, of course, is getting a lot of people caught up. A lot of these youngsters didn't know how to act. I myself didn't fucking know how to act, right? And we were doing our thing. So he starts to try to pull away from that. And this is when he gets interrogated and he finds out, man, that Bobby Grattan, of course, is definitely an NF member, you know, or was at that time in good standings, and what the agenda was behind that CD. Now, Dyno is flabbergasted, right? Because he doesn't want to be involved in anything like that. At no point in time was he ever, you know, considered an associate or anything like that of the NF, but they were basically throwing him into that salad bowl and tossing him. You know what I mean? It was ugly. Where was his antennas when Bobby was up there with the big NF tattoos? I can't call it like an alcoholic, but at the end of the day, it was what it is, right? And it is what it was. So anyways, Dyno decides that for no other reason, man, he should kind of, you know, let Darkroom Familia do its thing. So, of course, Never from Darkroom, from Lowdown, and Duke and Crooked continue this push for Darkroom Familia. And Dyno decides to kind of distance himself, and he actually joins a record label called Dog Day Records. Now, you got to understand, at this time, he's a very well-known individual with over 100 and something albums, you know, under his belt, several movies. And the vato, his expression and his form of expression through his art, man, is what he really wants to do. This vato really don't want to sell dope, man. He's a product of his environment, though. You got to make ends meet, because meet the ends, right? You have to do what you have to do. So he's out there living that life. But at the same time, he still wants to do his music. He still wants to rock it for the Chicano people. He still wants to make some feria for himself. Saca la bolsita. So he joins Dog Day Records, a pretty well-known record label up north in Northern California. They had several artists, and he thought that for no other reason, he should take it in a different direction. Of course, he does an album with Dog Day Records. About the same time, man, another album comes out, kind of in the same semblance of GUN, and it's called Cuete, GUN 2. And there was a lot of songs, man, that was pulled off of Dyno's album, Gang Stories, and basically thrown on this album to make it look like Dyno was still affiliated with that album, if he was still rocking with that cause. But at the same time, he was just a young norteño man, like I said, striving, down for whatever, you know, a product of his environment, a true norteño, being from Northern California, but not anyone that was trying to get in the game or play the political shit or play politics. That wasn't his forte. Of course, he found himself already in that boat because of this GUN album, and he was trying to distance himself. Okay, so what happens is Dyno's still out there in the game, and he ends up getting caught up. He ends up getting caught up for a case, man, to which he gets bailed out, and he's fighting this Fed case. You know, he's fighting this Fed case. Well, about the same time that he's fighting this Fed case, he gets caught up and enwrapped in the Operation Black Widow. In 2001, man, Operation Black Widow hits. And for those of you that don't know, that ain't on planet Earth or ain't from Northern California, Operation Black Widow was basically a sting operation, a RICO operation set up by the federal government to focus and target the leadership of the Nuestra Familia. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say they got the right guys or they got the wrong guys, man. That's none of my business. But at the end of the day, they arrested 21 people, and Mr. David Rocha, looking like this, watching the mocha, was there with them. And a lot of people assumed, I remember first seeing the pictures, man, of all these different individuals, the hierarchy, basically, of the NF, the Mesa. And I was looking, I said, God damn, man, Dyno, I didn't know Dyno was an NF member. So the wind never blew that way. I never heard that, right? Well, at the same time, he was just an associate. And he was an associate by circumstances. It wasn't anything he was doing, but what he had already did by producing this album and being involved with that movement, man, that they automatically threw him into the pot and let him bubble, right? Well, he boiled over. But one thing I can say about David Rocha, and let me end any misconception right now. The Vato never said nothing. He kept his fucking muzzle on lock, right? He went to the courthouse with vatos like Wet the Rubalcaba. He went to the courthouse with vatos like Happy Cervantes. He went to the courthouse with real big wig, man, motherfuckers that were really doing it, right? And he always kept his shit on lock. And that is the reason why they gave him the wiggle room and they told him, hey, you're not a carnal, you're not a member, Holmes. So as long as you don't say nothing about us, Sasuke, we ain't gonna say nothing about you and you can do it pushing. So Dyno got the pass, man, and he got back on the streets. But when he got back on the streets, there was a stigma. Of course, someone gets out a little too quick. Everyone automatically assumes they did something bad or they told something too much. That's not the case here, man. I'm here to tell you facts, actual and factual. I've talked to real ones, man, and I know it. David Rocha didn't say nada, man. The homeboys gave him a pass because he was a real one. There was vatos like Bobby Gratton that was already telling on everyone. Vatos like Ashali, Lizard Hernandez de Pitas that was already giving up the ghost. Vatos like Chico Robes, Holmes, that told on everyone in the world. There was vatos like that were giving up the ghost as far as Operation Black Widow. And Dyno was like this. I got to see around the crowd. He didn't say nada, right? For being a rapper, he wrapped his mouth up and didn't say nothing. Anyways, he ends up getting caught up on this fucking drug case. And goes to the, goes to federal detention, goes to prison, federal prison. Of course, he's there in Sacramento, and at the time he's there sitting in Sacramento, doing time, he's accosted by a few young Northerners. Of course, they've heard these stories. There's big misconceptions. People think he told, people think he didn't, and he's doing his Christian thing at the time. He found the Lord, and I know that a lot of people get a bad taste in their mouth and a bad stigma. Oh, they're Bible thumpers, they're thumping, right? Because they find the Lord in prison, but some people truly do. I've had cellies, man. I've met people that truly become believers in prison, Hey, God's going to come at you on your weakest times, right? He's going to come at you and touch your heart in your weakest moments. He's going to come at you when you hit rock bottom. And this was the time that he comes and shows you, the true glory of whatever's going on, the faith. Utterly, I ain't trying to be religious, but I know what's happening, right? So this is what happens. And Dyno starts to preach to people. He starts to, fellowship is what it's called. Spread the word, because this is what he feels. He's always been a speaker. He's always been a talker. He's always been a rapper. Now he wants to do it for the right reason, which is his savior, who he believes in. This is faith, He's doing it by faith. Of course, the Norteños are like, fuck you, Charlie Holmes. Stop stealing our manpower. Stop poisoning their mentes. So they get off on Dyno. Of course, man, he stands his ground as a true Norteño, He's still in good standings. He ends up going to federal prison. Of course, he gets to federal prison. He continues to fellowship. He continues to do what he does. And a lot of people still remember him as the old Sir Dyno. So, of course, man, he's approached by people. They want to know if he's still with the CR in the Tranca. They want to know if he's still with all that shit he was talking about. And, of course, he's no longer with that. He's a changed man. And in order to be considered a changed man, you got to continue that change. You can't just change one day and then change the next. So I was saying, you got to continue steadily, forever forward with that change. And he's done that. And now I want to talk about Mr. David Rocha these days. We all know about his albums. We all know about Pinta Bao. We all know about gang stories. We all know about everything he did for Northern California, putting several rappers on the map. Like I said, Bugsy and fucking Speedy Loco are in a lot of his old Darkroom Familia videos. If you don't believe me, watch them, right? This is a fact. This is a fact. I've had conversations with Pastor David Rocha where he has told me, and I no longer call him Sir Dyno. I know sometimes I like to play a little bit, but he is now Pastor David Rocha. He lives by faith. He has now become a great family man, a husband, a leader in the community, a real one. House of Rest Modesto, man. That's his church where he fellowships, where he preaches at. Go tap in, man. Fuck with him one time in Modesto, California, if you're ever there. If you just were a big Sir Dyno fan and you want to see where he's ended up now, man, he's ended up in a better place, in a bigger place, and probably the best place he could be in his life, man. And he's a great man, a very inspirational man. Someone that has always inspired me, even in the gang life, till now inspires me in a different realm, and he's still about the cause, and he's still about the people. And that's what I love about it, man. Real life, real people do real things, real ones. Anyways, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this little lightweight profile on Sir Dyno David Rocha. Of course, you know what it is, Darkroom Familia. If you've never listened to him, tap in. All you got to do is Google Darkroom Familia. You're going to see a vato like this. Bang, bang. You know what it is. I hope you move fast with a purpose. I hope that you get everything that you want coming to you. Remember, at the end of the day, it's all about living by faith and doing what you have to do for your familia. No one else will do it for you. If you find yourself in bad situations, dust yourself off and try again. You feel me? With that being said, man, there's a little subscription bell right there. If you want to touch it, tap it, lick it, I don't care what it is. That's up to you, man. I highly appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up. If not, you can hit that thumbs down. Heavy as the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to do what I do because that's how I am. Anyways, shout out to Mr. David Rocha. Respects, carnal. Ha 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 ha.